Hey everyone, welcome. It's Monday. We are here on our mat, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I haven't really taught a yin class in this platform before, so we are going to go ahead and try that today. So I want to take just a minute and explain what yin is. So yin is a slower style of yoga. It is lots of things. There is not just one thing about yin. So yin can be a deep meditative state. It is physically, it taps into the myofascial system, which is one of the things that I love about the human body is the fascia. And I work a lot with that in my massage practice. And so now I also work deeply with it in my yoga practice. Yin style is what I teach at the yoga space. I do a yin flow style. So this is very near and dear to me. I'm also doing a deep intensive training right now on yin. So I'm really excited to bring you more of this practice. So physically, it's really good for the connective tissue in the body. It's great for, the mind to be able to come down from that chaotic space that we reside in most of the time. This is a way to balance your life in a way, because we spend so much time in that sympathetic, that go, 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 that rush around state in our bodies, that our nervous system, it needs time to come back down into that parasympathetic, which is your rest and renew and digest stage. And so this practice allows us to tap into that. It also has just a plethora of other benefits that we'll go into another time. But the main thing that I want to talk about is we are going to hold these poses for several minutes. So when we are getting into a pose, we're going to use lots of props. So grab blocks if you have them, grab a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, grab several pillows, like 2 or 3 at least, like full head size, like on your bed size pillows, because you do want to prop to a space where you will have sensation, but you're not so deep in it that you can't hold the pose. I also recommend you can grab some beach towels, which is what I grabbed, just a big beach towel, a yoga style blanket. It could be a cotton blanket. Just grab a couple of those so that you have some options for propping yourself, because we are going to use the props. It's very active. It's active propping in a stillness, which sounds kind of weird, but I'll explain it as we go along. So we're gonna go ahead and just find a comfortable seat to get ourselves grounded, to get ourselves into the practice, and then we will have the practice. So find a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. You can close your eyes, soften the shoulders, maybe placing your hands in your lap, and just take a few moments to breathe in and breathe out, letting yourself let go of anything that has happened before you came to class, letting go of anything that you still need to do. It's very easy to start thinking about those things, those to-do lists. Set them aside, pick them up, put them in a box in your mind, and just let them be there for a few moments while we go through this practice. So we'll take one more deep breath. And again, maybe setting an intention for our practice, an intention of allowing yourself the time to be here, allowing yourself the encouragement to really feel into the poses so that you can learn a little bit more about what we call it the edge of comfort. Like, what are those boundaries, those edges that you have, both on the mat and then off the mat as well. So we'll take one more deep breath here. Exhale it out. Okay, you can blink open the eyes. We're going to go ahead and get into our first posture. Sorry, Misty's bringing me a ball and wants to play. Perfect timing, right? So the first thing we're going to do is actually come to a standing position, and I want you to grab bolster, maybe some blankets. So we're going to come just to standing. Sorry, that totally cuts off my head. Hi. All right, so we're going to come to standing. Feet are going to be about hip distance apart, and put a little bit of a bend in your knees, and we're just going to slowly kind of hinge forward into a forward fold. But I have not warmed up. My body is not like, I've not just run. So my body does not feel like it just wants to fold into a forward fold and hang out there for several minutes. So what we're going to actually do is grab our props, bolster, a couple of blankets. You can stack a couple of blankets or a bolster or pillows. And then I'm going to kind of allow myself to fold over that so that my chest actually has something to rest on, so that I'm not just hanging in space. The other thing that you can do if you have yoga blocks is grab blocks so that your hands are just not hanging. If they reach the floor, that's great. If you can grab some books, something, or more pillows, something so that your hands have something to rest on. So with the exception of our neck, we're not really just allowing the joints to hang in space. Instead, we want to have that little bit of support so that we can hang out in this position. This is intense, I get that. So as we're going through these postures, I want you to think about a 1 to 10 scale. And I don't want that number to go past about a 6. So on a 1 to 10 scale, going to about a 6, I'm gonna grab my timer, which I left over here. That gives us the most beneficial space to be in for our practice. So let me just pull up my timer. So like I said, we are going to actually be holding these for several minutes. So give yourself an opportunity to settle into that. So I've got a bolster here. I could also, again, like I said, maybe you take a couple of blankets if you need a little less space. Find what feels good in your body. And then once you find that position, let yourself just really kind of settle into it. So I've got a nice deep bend in my knees. There's no right or wrong. The beautiful thing about yin is about how it feels, not how it looks. So go ahead and closing your eyes if that feels good, or maybe you take your arms and you rest your head on your arms. That's just fine. Find what feels good in your body. And if this still feels like a lot, you can also go up against a wall and just put your booty against the wall and have that little bit of support there. Okay, so now I'm talking through a lot of this first pose, but we'll dive into it. So after you find that position, see if you can just soften into it. Letting yourself feel from the feet up. We'll only stay here for a few minutes. So a lot of times in my classes at the yoga space, we've got lots of extra props. So we may stay in a pose for a little bit longer than I'm going to do in this session here. But I do want to give you a taste of what yin feels like. And we're going to kind of sprinkle that into our weekly practices, because I do feel so strongly about the benefit of this, taking the time, stepping into that stillness. Those are things that we don't do often enough for our own well-being. We're only going to stay here for maybe 3 more breaths. And after that 3rd breath, put a little bend in the knees, carefully bringing yourself up. You're going to slowly come up just to a standing position. Allow the spine to be long, soften your shoulders, and just take a moment, feeling into your feet, feeling up the back side of the body. Feel the length of your neck. Good. So the next pose, again, sorry, that cuts off my head. The next thing that we're going to do is come down into a deep squat. So for a yogi squat, malasana, we are going to, I'm just going to turn so you guys can see me a little bit better. So I am going to grab my props to sit on, but I'm taking my feet wider than hip distance. And then if you have yoga blocks, these work great. If you don't, grab a little stool. You can stack books. So I know there's a few more props in this time, and I'll put that in the notes for the class, but find something that you can sit on. So I'm not fully into my sit bones or into my glutes or my hips. I'm still in my feet. I'm just using the block to support my body so that I don't have to hold all of it deep into this deep squat. So maybe this is not where your body is. Maybe you hang out here. That's a lot of work for your thighs. So maybe you stack a couple of blocks, take a little bit of that pressure off so that you have something to sit on. Because again, we're going to be here for a couple of minutes. So find the prop that works for you. So knees are wide. Elbows can be in front. They can be on top. They can be on the other side. And then I want you to grab those pillows or your bolster, and we're going to use that to support our head. So one of the things we want to do in our yin practice is to allow the head to fold forward and be supported rather than hanging in space. We want to lower the forehead, lower the head so that we can kind of dive into that deep meditative space. So for me, a bolster works great. If you have blanket or pillows, you can kind of just wrap them around. You can put your chin into those pillows, whatever feels good to you. And you can use your chin, you can do forehead, you can turn one cheek if that would feel good to you. So find what feels appropriate. And again, feel free to move around a little bit with it. Let the arms be soft. Maybe they come to the floor. Maybe you stack them on something, but I want you to be in a place where you can be as soft as possible. So again, we're finding that edge of comfort. You should feel sensation, but it should be something that you can settle into. So again, I like to think about a 1 to 10 scale. And I think of a 6, maybe a 7, depending on your practice. So adjusting things so that you can feel like you can maybe hinge forward a little bit. So I've moved my bolster forward so that I can lean into it a little bit. I'll just show you from the side what that looks like. Again, I'm using that little bit of support. I'm still getting nice ankle flexion. My forehead is supported. And we're just gonna settle into stillness. Finding that breath. And just breathing into this fold. And we're compressing through the hip, a little bit of the knee, the ankle. Breathing through the back side of the body. Part of our yin practice is finding that stillness and that relaxation. Giving yourself a chance to come out of that rush state and settle into the earth, settle into something a little more grounded, something that can take that anxiety and drop it down. So just finding that breath, letting the exhale soften the body, feeling into those sensations, but not so deeply that you don't feel like you can stay in them. So breathing into that space. We've already been here 2.5 minutes. We'll stay in here just a little bit longer. And again, feel free to adjust your props if you feel like you need a little more support. Maybe you need to sit a little higher. Maybe you need to lean a little more forward. Whatever it is that would feel good in your body, to feel supported, but still finding that edge of comfort. So what that means is you're looking for a place of sensation in the body. Giving your body a chance to unwind. And take one more breath here. And then using your hands to press props or floor away, go ahead and come all the way up. So the other thing that we do in a yin practice is we take what's called a rebound. It's shavasana. It's the end pose in most yoga classes. So we are going to take that in between this posture and our next one. So come on down to your back and just lie in a basic corpse pose. Legs long, ankles as wide as the mat. Soften the shoulders. So this position allows us to be in a position that doesn't require effort. Gravity can press into the body. Our body presses into the earth. No effort required. And so we do this rebound so that our body can reorganize after the pose. Because again, we're working with connective tissue, not just muscle. And so the fascia needs time to restructure. And so we do this position so that it can do that. We'll take just one more breath here. And then maybe you roll to your side and press yourself up. Okay, so for our next posture, I would like you guys to grab either your bolster or a couple of pillows and stack them right behind you. And then grab a blanket for a little bit of a pillow. So I've just folded mine. You can fold it however you want, but just kind of having a little bit of a rectangle, not super thick, just a little bit of a pillow. That's going to go back there. And then in front of our bodies, we're going to bring the bottoms of our feet together. It doesn't matter how close they are. They can be, I'm just trying to go around my cat. Bottoms of the feet together can be out here, right in the middle. Just find a place where bottoms of the feet find each other. And then we're going to bring our hands back and slowly lower back onto that bolster and that pillow. You may find that you would like to have another pillow or something underneath your outer legs. Feel free to support those. That would be a great idea. Maybe I'll grab these pillows. Pillows everywhere in this house. I don't know about you, but we always have pillows. So bottoms of the feet. So maybe taking a little pillow and just propping it like up by your hip so that the whole leg is supported. Again, we're looking for a little bit of sensation in the inner thighs, but not so much so that it's like too intense. So maybe just a little bit of support. And then your arms can just be out to the side, palms facing up if that feels good. And we're just going to breathe into this reclined butterfly. So we're now opening up the front side of the body. Our first two poses, we're all about opening up the back side of the body to kind of turn inward. And now we're opening up. We're breathing into the front side of the body. Maybe noticing the way that your feet press into each other. Noticing the angle of the legs. Feeling your hips. Hips heavy into the ground. The bolster or pillows give us a little bit of curve in that low back. Should not be super intense on that low back. If it is, we're going to adjust. Maybe adding an extra pillow so you're a little bit higher. Maybe placing something underneath your hips. The shoulders soften down away from the ears. And connecting with that breath. Follow the air in and out of the body. Slow and steady breath. Giving yourself permission to slow down. So take a big sigh if that feels appropriate. Again, there's no right or wrong. It's how you feel, not how you look. This pose is about turning inward. This practice is about turning inward. Maybe noticing if something arises. Breathing into that space. Finding that edge. So we don't want to be so comfortable that we're going to fall asleep. We still want a little bit of opening and sensation. That's how we get into and restructure the connective tissue. But if it's on too deep of a stretch, it's going to brace against that opening. And so we're trying to find that middle ground. So if you find that you need a little bit more, maybe you move the props out just a little bit. Maybe you don't need the pillow anymore. Maybe you want to have a little bit more length in the body. So feel free to adjust for you, your body today. It might be different than tomorrow. And that's normal. That happens for all of us. We have to come to the practice each time with a new set of eyes. So we'll take one more breath here. And then we're going to use our arms to support the legs, to close the legs. And then maybe taking the legs long. Allowing yourself to. Legs long. Maybe you're still on that bolster, or maybe we come up and we move that bolster, move our props, and come back to that Shavasana. Letting yourself just be on even ground. Finding that deep, full breath. One breath, gliding into the next. Take one more breath here. And then we're going to go ahead and bend the knees. And I want you to hug your knees into your chest. Maybe wrapping arms either around the shins or behind the knees. And just breathing into that space for a moment. And then you have a choice. So you can take legs wide. They're holding on maybe in front or underneath the knees. And if this is your happy place, then you can totally stay here. This feels good in your body. Or maybe you reach around for those ankles. And bring bottoms of the feet together. Or maybe you take your feet wide for a modified happy baby. So full happy baby would be the full expression, but you have lots of options for in between. So you have knees into the chest, hugging knees wide, grabbing onto ankles, maybe ankles lift, or wrapping around to the outside or inside of the feet. Again, there's not a huge focus on alignment in our yin practice. So this happy baby might feel different than the one you would do in a flow class. You do what feels good for you. If you have a hard time keeping your shoulders down, maybe you grab a pillow. Maybe there's a pillow underneath your head and shoulders so that you feel like you can soften into it a little bit more. Or maybe you feel like, you know what, my hips just don't want to stay down. Okay, well, let's give them some support. So put a blanket or a pillow underneath the hips and then bring your feet up. So take one or both of those modifications. Again, it's about how it feels in your body. If it feels good, if it feels like you can find some sensation and settle into that space, that's where we want to reside. And again, maybe you start with a pillow under the hips and under the head. Maybe you hang out in it for a little bit and then you decide, you know what? I feel like I need to modify. So maybe I adjust and I pull that back out. Say, okay, actually that feels really good now. Okay, good. Do that. Do what feels good. And just breathe into that space. Notice where you feel sensation. Do you feel it in your hips, in the hip joint? Do you feel it in your back or your thighs? Do you feel it in your shoulders or your neck? See what is going on in your body and observe it. And breathe into it, allowing the breath, allowing the stillness to enter the body. Again, this helps to balance all the things that are going on during the day. How often are you able to pause, to breathe, to find stillness and sensation right on the edge of comfort? And once you do find it, what do you do with it? Can you sit with it? Can you breathe with it? Can you identify without labeling good or bad? Giving yourself a few moments in this space. Giving yourself, let's take 5 more breaths. And then after that 5th breath, go ahead and release. Bring the knees back together. Slowly lower the legs down and take them right back into Shavasana. So taking legs long, ankles wide, taking arms out to the side. And just breathing into that space. Letting your legs just roll open or fall in any way that they want to. Staying here for just a few breaths. And bend one leg at a time. Plant the feet wide on the floor and just take a few windshield wipers. Noticing how the body responds to that movement. And the next time that your knees fall to the right, go ahead and just come all the way to your right side. Pause for a breath. And then pressing your hands into the floor, using your arms to press the earth away, come up. Find a comfortable seat. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Close your eyes or gaze softly toward the floor. Thank you all so much for joining me for today's Yin practice. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Namaste.